It has been a while since I've been out here in my garden for more than, say, 10 or 15 minutes because it's been so hot. The weather is too hot when you get up early in the morning, and it stays too hot until well after dark. So that doesn't leave very much time to get any chores done at all. But today we have this unseasonably cool day, and I decided that I really need to get some things deadheaded, and I wanted to bring you all along and do a garden tour. Just, show you around. Some things, of course, are a little past their peak. Some things are just coming on, and some things are yet to show off. So I need to go grab a pair of clippers, and then we'll go start this garden tour. We're going to start here in my driveway at my comfrey, which is blooming again. This is excellent medicinal. People use it for skin ailments and a bunch of different other things. Some people use it to help heal like lesions and broken bones. It's also really good for making compost tea. It has a really long taproot, which allows it to pull up a bunch of nutrients from deep within the earth. Here's my asparagus bed, and those are the strawberries that I just got in the ground, and they seem to be perking right up. Those are the ones that I moved from behind my greenhouse. Now this right here are some onions and leeks that I grew from seed. And you can see they're laying over, but they're still growing and their necks aren't broken yet. So I'm just going to let them keep growing. What happened is we got in here and we tried to weed out this bed. And in doing so, we kind of laid those leeks and onions over. So given that weeding causes those to lay over, I'm in this place where I'm not sure if I should just let the weeds grow or if I should pull the weeds and take the chance of breaking my onions and my leeks before they're ready, because I feel like the season's going to be, I feel like they're going to be done soon. And I want to get as much out of them as I can, but I also know that if they're competing with weeds, they're not going to grow as big. So the dilemma is, I take my chance and let them grow with the weeds, or take my chance and pull all the weeds. Either way, it could be detrimental to those onions and leeks, because once the neck of the onions or leeks break, they won't grow anymore. You might as well just pick them and use them. I'm not really sure what to do, and it is literally my own negligence that has gotten me into this position. So the lazy part of me is just like, leave them, and then the other part of me is like, no, go ahead and get those weeds out of there. So to be determined. Okay, I have these red raspberries that I have in these pots here, and they were just little baby plugs when I got them, and they've grown significantly. They are a bush type, and they're thornless, and they are supposed to not get very big. I am eventually going to put these in the landscape, but until then, I've just got them growing in these pots here beside my little building I keep my camping stuff in. This right here is a log, a rotted log, that over the years, of course, it's broken down a lot. We have just been adding hens and chicks to it. Well, not just hens and chicks, stone crops, sedums, all different kinds of stuff. And these two big hens and chicks, that burgundy and that one there, are our newest, those are our newest acquirements that we have for this garden. And they seem to be liking it so far. But we do have a few different types of sedums in here. And then there's, I think that's the dragon's blood. It's not doing as well as this blue spruce sedum. We have this bed here, which is just honestly one of my favorite beds. I have this bronze fennel that's getting ready to go to bloom. I have some artemisia, some nasturtiums, some silver mound way down here. That's another type of artemisia. Some spirea. I think this is neon spirea. I'm not sure. I will definitely put it on the screen. This right here is a perfect example of something I need to cut back. This is my chamomile. I have let it, I've harvested it once already, but obviously I have let it go too far this time. Let's look at the rest of these plants first. I have my black and blue salvia, which isn't supposed to be hardy in our zone. I bought it on clearance sale for $1 in the annual section, and it has come back every year since. Let's see. I don't think it's showing up, but it literally does look black and blue. I feel like in my screen it's looking way more lavender. I don't know how that will come across to you guys, but it does look more blue and black in person. This is some salvia that I planted from seed. This is a marigold that's getting ready to bloom. A foxglove. It's on its 3rd year. This will be its 3rd summer being alive. It didn't bloom the 1st year. The 2nd year it bloomed. The 3rd year it bloomed. So this is its 2nd year blooming, but its 3rd year alive. I also have this variegated hydrangea that's put on some beautiful growth. I don't see any buds on it yet. Oh, yes, actually I do. There's the buds. This hellebore garden over here, I mean, there's other things in it, but it's mostly hellebores. It's finely weeded, and it's very thankful for that. Everything looks happy. These right here are mostly those plants that me and you dug up together. They are recovering nicely. Most of them have been cropped at this point, and they're starting to bush back out, so they will go to their prospective homes soon. This is that bed I planted the houseplants in, and they are starting to recover. It might not be so obvious because they still have some of the leaves that were burnt, but if you look at the new growth, let's take this one for instance. That new growth is so healthy. Same with this. It's got these burnt outer ones, but if you look at the new young growth, it's coming in really healthy. The best example of this would be the monstera. Look how ugly those leaves were before. And then these ones are coming in so green. So this bed's going to take some time to recover, but it is recovering. Everything in here is actually starting to look green and healthy. I mean, some of them are being eaten by bugs, but the state of the plants just looks so much healthier. This is just a potted plant I put out here so I could get the benefit of fresh air and rainfall. I have these coleus I planted over here. They're still pretty little. Hopefully by the end of the season, they start to perk up. I do need to weed around them. That'll help a lot, I'm sure. And then I have, of course, my strawberries here. These alpine strawberries. I don't know if you can see this, but these alpine strawberries are still putting out fruit. I know I'm in an awkward position, so it's making the shadow, like, I'm sorry. I hope you guys can see that, but there's a bunch of red fruit. You see that back there? So the alpine what I'm trying to say is the alpine strawberries are just still producing and still performing. My coral bells there are going out of bloom, but they are so pretty mixed in with these strawberry plants. This bed back here, these white sages I planted behind my greenhouse, they are loving their spot, as evidenced by all this bushy growth that's happening at the bottom of these plants. Like, can you see that? It's just got so much bushy growth. So look at that one. Look at the bottom of that one. I knew that they would love this spot because of all the heat that's reflected off of my greenhouse. And I'm sure that even though it's sealed, some of it still escapes. So over here is just a mess. It needs weeded. There are plants back here. I've got some Sweet Everlasting. It's a nice little dried flower. It's not supposed to be perennial here from what I've read, but it came back. I might just have the wrong information on it though. That purple one, this purple plant here is some anise hyssop. And that plant there is sage, but it's either sage. I think it might possibly be that large flowering South Hill that I planted. It could be that as well. Whenever I give this bed some more attention, I will definitely do the research and make sure I know what plants these are. Plus, I will get pictures and I will Google them. Basically, it's just that one. I don't know what that one is. I do have a rose planted back there, but the deer keep eating it, so I'm going to have to do something about that. So there is the chamomile. It'll start sending up new shoots. I know it looks yellowed just because it's been so hot. So everything on my deck is doing pretty good. We've already harvested a couple tomatoes off of this trellis here. The sun gold there in the back. And this sweet aperitif, which is a really, really good tomato. I do still have a couple of jugs. If you look beyond these weeds here, beyond this chicory that needs pulled. Chicory is probably one of my favorite so-called weeds. But I do still have a few jugs back there that need planted. I think that you can't see them now. Oh, I also did plant a couple of pole beans here and a couple of spots, and they're coming through. Some over there. This right here is called Rebel Alliance, and just look how crazy these blooms are. Trying to just, I wish that I could show you the way it looks standing here. There are just so many blooms and so many flowers. This pink tint is my shower. We are having bathtub issues, and our bathtub's broken and we need to replace it. And we're waiting on a contractor to come out and give us a quote, or we're just going to have to do it ourselves. We'll know more after we talk to the contractor, but this is just a 4x4 pop-up tent, and I have a camp shower inside. My pawpaw tree is doing quite well and put on some growth. And we just stuck a couple of suckers in here from the tomatoes. Now you really can't see this over here, but I have all these crocosmias starting to bloom. and they just look really beautiful. So far I have red and I have orange. I'm not really sure how to show the beauty of these either, because in person they're just so much more breathtaking. I just wanted to show you against my hand so you kind of see the scale of them a little bit. I mean, I know you don't know how big my hand is, but I have my sea holly in bloom. There's a little zinnia in bloom. That rose is petering out. This little mini rose, this little mini rose has been glorious this summer, but we're just going to go ahead and pop off those tops, and then we should get more blooms. I've just been coming out here and deadheading it. I'll leave that one for one more day. Oh, that's all it gets though, maybe two, because you know, sometimes I don't get out here as quickly as I'd like. But yeah, I just popped off those little dead parts, and now we should get more blooms. Also, I have this couple of Lysianthus back here tucked behind this peony that are going to be blooming soon. We're not quite ready yet. I have this truffle of pink gomphrena and that peachy keen suberbena are putting on flowers. Hopefully that shows up. It's this prettiest pale peach. It's almost an apricot. It's so beautiful. I can't wait till they fill out more. I have this green twister coneflower that I grew from seed a couple of years ago. And this first flower is pretty spent, so I'm just going to cut it. And then it's got all these other ones getting ready to open up and flower. And then I just have herbs. I have, well, my pineapple plant, all those little annuals I planted before. My mint, oregano, thyme, mint. This is apple or pineapple mint, oregano. We cut that back together. My lavender and my St. John wort. St. John's wort are both in bloom, and they look really, really pretty together. I also have this Monarda in bloom. It looks very, very beautiful. I think this might be the lemon mint variety. I know that I had some over here. Or it might just be the bee balm. Another one that I would literally have to look up the flowers. But either way, it's a Monarda and it's very beautiful. My other mints, like my apple mint, my chocolate mint, they're all doing well. Another bed that needs weeded, but those coral bells are kind of showing off right now. Love in a Mist has died back, and we have these really cool looking seed pods there. But this is the one I want to tackle at the moment. All of these calendulas, they have been in bloom in full force, and there's so many going to seed and spent, and I just kind of want to clean this up so that way they will put off more blooms. There it is, done. I did leave a few on for the pollinators. Look how gorgeous this one is. It's like a pale, creamy yellow. It's so beautiful. I did leave a few for the pollinators though. My sweet peas along the back. There's one little flower up there, but they're basically going to seed. I will insert a picture of what they look like. But they're done for the season. There's a chance if the plants survive after this heat wave is over, they'll send up new growth. But the plants have to survive till pretty much fall for that to happen, so that may or may not be a thing. That's it for out here. Well, it's mostly it for out here, so we're going to walk up to the top vegetable garden area and look and see what's going on there. This onion bed never got weeded out, and it's obvious. However, these onions are still getting some pretty good size to them. My garlic needs pulled. I will be doing that within the next day or two. It won't be today. All right, here's this garden up here. Early Sunglow sweet corn that I planted not too long ago, honestly. It was sometime in June. It went in late and it's growing quite well. I have this cucumber here that's taking over this little spot. And there's several cucumbers on it. I'm unsure of the variety. It just said white cucumber on the tag. It's one that I got from the nursery because none of my cucumbers germinated. Got some marigolds I grew from seed. I planted this area with peanut, and this right here is the only one that came up. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm going to let it grow and we'll see if I get any peanuts. I have peppers here, sweet peppers. There's all different types, but just to name a few, I have the chocolate cherry pepper. I have the albino bullnose pepper back there. It's got a little pepper on it. These things are definitely starting to put on size. And when I put them in the ground, they had just been in their container too long, so they're green, they're growing. It's the end of June, beginning of July, and I already have peppers. So I have some bush beans here that I planted near the same time I planted that corn, and it's starting to flower. Let's see what type you are. You are the purple stardust dry bean. Some coral fountain amaranth. It's blooming a little short, probably because it was stressed out as well. Some more beans. These are the Tanya's pink potted bean. Some more bell pepper plants. These right here, I need to pull that big old weed. These right here are the dwarf Taylor bean. More bell peppers, a nasturtium, a beautiful calendula, a couple beautiful calendulas, and then we're on to these celosia and amaranth beds. Gomphrena, that kind of thing. They are very pretty. Look at that amaranth. Look how beautiful that is. Can you see that two-toned? And there's that one. That one's very beautiful. Look at that rose peeking out. It's such a vibrant red. I think that my camera is picking it up orange, and it is an orange red, but it's more red than it is orange. Then we've got some ageratus and some gomphrena. Well, we've got some gomphrena and some ageratum. So next we are going to go through here. My clematis is definitely growing. This one is growing way taller. It hasn't bloomed this year. This one seems to have more like upward and outward growth, while this one seems to be a little more bushy. I have these big old volunteer sunflowers. I have still never got this weeded, but I do have a grapevine here. I have a grapevine here that I've already started to grow across there. And this is full of weeds and strawberries. More weeds, more supposed strawberries. And this right here, I weeded out really well and seeded with sunflowers because I have these volunteer ones here that are so big and beautiful. And I only had 3 come up. So that is this is where I'm going to put those sunflower seeds that I seeded in my last video. Whichever ones germinate are going to go in this bed. I'll just weed it out, leave the sunflowers that are here, and plant the new ones. Just wanted to show you how cool this celosia looks. That's an odd one, huh? Okay, on this side, I just have more celosia. It's planted about the same way the other side is. It's got roughly the same plants on both sides. As you can see, I've got this beautiful amaranth over here too. This is my double row of tomatoes, and we have a ton of fruit. If we went through every single one of these varieties, we would be here all day. So I'm just going to kind of go through and show you some of the fruit. I do want to point out this plant. It is so beautiful. It's like velvety and kind of has a blue cast to it, kind of like blue fescue. You can kind of see it compared to the green behind it. It's very pretty. It is called Woolly Blue Jay. It doesn't really have fruit right now, but it's a pretty plant. But this other one beside it does. This one does. We have had a handful of tomatoes out of this garden. Just a handful though. And I just want to say that this is the earliest I've ever had homegrown tomatoes this time of year out of my garden or anyone else's garden that actually lives near me that doesn't grow in a high tunnel. So that's kind of exciting. And everything's thriving. So I just want to go through, like I said, and show you some fruit. Maybe I'll point out some cool things about certain plants and let you know what those particular ones are. But otherwise, if I sat here and named every single one, we would be here all day because almost every single plant up here is a different variety. There's only a couple that have more than one of that type planted. So, and there are 46 plants up here. So I think that in this top garden, that's 45 different varieties because I think there's only one repeat up here. So let's just go through and look at these tomatoes. Okay. This row is loaded too. You can see all kinds of, let's see. There's fruit there. There's some fruit there. There is just these plants down here are just doing so well. These are the marigolds, and there's still basil growing down here. These plants here need up off the ground because I ran out of trellising stuff, and it just needs refilled. I just never got it refilled and back up here. So I need to come up here and get these couple of tomatoes off the ground, but because they do have fruit too. I mean, they'll still produce on the ground. Look how pretty this tomato is. Yeah, look how cool that shape of that fruit is. It's definitely an oxheart type, but this variety is called monkey's ass, and honestly, it's hard for me to tell if this is even picking up because it's so bright in my viewfinder. This one has a cool shaped fruit, and this one is the Lucky Tiger. This thing is loaded with fruit. Most of these varieties I've never tasted before, but that's why we're growing so many different types, is because I have a really large seed collection from where I do seed swaps, and I want to be able to get through all my different varieties and taste them at least one time. And even planting, I think I've got 100 and some different varieties this year. Even doing it that way, it'll take me a couple years to get through all of them. And that's if I don't trade for any more, which is really, really hard to do, especially if you come across this rare variety that you don't know if you'll come across again. Let's go down the back side of this row. This stick tomato is one I want to show you. I've showed this on another one. It's finally got fruit, but it grows just like a stick. It's called a stick tomato. I guess that's the best way to describe it. It got its name for a reason. And I just wanted to show this again because it's definitely one of note, and it's finally getting fruit. So that's cool. We'll see if it tastes good or if it's just novelty. Either way, it's a pretty cool tomato. These tomatoes are pretty interesting. They're growing. They kind of almost would remind you of a pepper plant. This one is called Blue Beach, and apparently it's a really good paste tomato. But I would say it's probably because it's nice and meaty, because that just looks like a pepper. It's pretty cool. More tomatoes, more tomatoes, more tomatoes, doing well. Lots of fruit. Let's see if, can you see that cluster? Bunny tails grass that volunteered. I have this calendula that I planted, another calendula that I planted, and all of this celery. It's doing quite well. I have picked one, so I'm in the phase where I'm starting to eat it. Everything says to blanch it because it will swell and become less woody and less strong. And if I were going to be eating it fresh, I might do that. But so far, I've just used it to cook. I still might come out here and blanch a few. I feel like most of this is going to get turned into celery powder or chopped up and frozen for use in like soups and stir fries and stuff. More bell peppers. This is a volunteer camellia flowered balsam that isn't in flower yet. This right here is a Kajari melon that some kind of vine borer got. I do have enough time to put another Kajari melon in this spot. However, this was the last of my seed. So I might look for another small melon that doesn't take, 120 days to ripen, and go ahead and get it in the ground, and hopefully the vine borers don't get it. All right, there's definitely more marigolds that I grew from seed and basil down here. More tomatoes. This tomato right here is getting some ripe fruit. Look how pretty. We've already eaten one of these, and it's a pretty good tomato. You will not see a taste test for this one because I'm only doing taste tests for varieties where I'm sure what they are. And this one is one that I got in a seed swap, and it's supposed to be a dark galaxy. If you look up dark galaxy, that's obviously not what a dark galaxy looks like. So it's either one that the seed was marked wrong, it cross-pollinated, or it's user error and I accidentally labeled it wrong. Either way, I'm not sure which variety it is, so I'm going to enjoy it, but you won't see a taste test for it because anything I do a taste test for is ones that I'm for sure of the variety. Those are some Jupiter peppers that we got from the nursery. They're growing quite well. This right here is a cotton plant, as well as that. This right here is a Mary's Niagara ground cherry. And the thing about these ground cherries, I mean, it's loaded. I don't know if you can see it. Like, it's loaded with flowers and fruit. But the thing about this ground cherry is instead of growing tall and bushy, it kind of crawls along the ground. Let me show you. This right here is also a Mary's Niagara ground cherry. And that is one plant. And it kind of just sprawls across the ground instead of growing tall and bushy. This right here is a cluster of volunteer tomatoes from last year. I think it's some type of cherry, but I'm just letting them grow. If it starts to look like it's killing out some of my other plants, I'll pull them, but as long as they're not being bothered, I'm just going to let them grow. This right here is my neon pink popcorn. It's finally, I don't know, it's about chest tall on me. Yeah, it's about chest height on me. These right here are some Jimmy Nardello peppers that I grew from seed, and they're starting to get fruit. Honestly, I need to check these. I've never grown this type before. Well, I've grown it, but it didn't do well, so I didn't get fruit. I need to go see if, do these get fat or do they stay long and skinny like that one is? You see how this one is kind of long and skinny? Do they stay that way or do they fatten up? That's what I need to go check. But they're finally starting to get fruit, and I grew all these from seed. For some reason, these ones are taller and skinnier than my other pepper plants. Is that just the type of pepper, or is it just the plants like adjusting to their environment? Do these grow taller and less bushy than other peppers? I'm not really sure. Okay, let's see, anything of note over here? We just got a lot of fruit on this aisle. That's a Dancing with Smurfs. That one down here. See this? This one will be ready probably tomorrow or the next day. We've got just all kinds of fruit. This one right here is a painted lady, and it is a variegated plant, but honestly, most of the variegation on it has disappeared, and I think it's due to just so much sun. Because when I planted it, there was so much more variegation on all the leaves, and those leaves haven't been pruned off, so they have just greened up in the sunshine. But these tomatoes are pretty meaty. They would make a good paste tomato because the cavity is not very big and there's not a lot of gel or seeds. This right here is a Black Beauty tomato. It's growing nicely. And then it's got a friend over here. It's very dark as well. And that is the Gargamel. Neither one of these are ripe yet. So that's kind of it right now for this top garden. We're just kind of in that season where the tomatoes are just starting to come on, and I'm waiting for everything else to ripen. I've got a decent crop of everything this year. So with that being said, let's walk down and look at my long beds on the slope. All right, we're walking around the outside of this. These blueberry bushes do have a few blueberries. They're not overly loaded, but there are a few on most of these bushes, which is awesome. They're finally starting to produce after being moved, some of them several times. Another little tuft of crocosmia here. I planted these beds knowing that anything I plant in them may be eaten. And we do have a little groundhog that lives right over in this gully here. So it's been munching on some of these plants. I've actually actively caught it in these gardens, and it's eating things that groundhogs really aren't supposed to eat. But the deer have been eating things deer aren't supposed to eat. So take any of the advice of being deer resistant or groundhog resistant or gopher resistant or squirrel resistant as just that, resistant, not deer proof, not rodent proof. They are just resistant. It's not what they prefer. But if they want to, they'll still eat it. Or if it's the best option, they'll still eat it. So with that being said, let's look at these long beds knowing that some of the plants have been eaten. And like everything else, it's just really weedy because I'm not coming out when the temperatures are between 90 and 100 degrees and very high humidity, 70s, 80s, 90s in the humidity. It's just not happening. And whenever it's 10 o'clock and it's still 75 degrees and humid, you're not going to be out in it. It's too dark to work and it's still too humid. So things could definitely look better, but I'm still happy with it. It still makes me happy. It still makes me smile, and I'm still impressed with all the things I've been able to grow. It doesn't have to be perfect for it to grow. It just grows better if it is. So I have a little ground cherry I put there and marigolds. These all were grown from seed. I have all this feverfew, which I really just need to take the time and cut. Let me show you these beds, and then I'll see if I'm going to cut these now or cut them at a later date. But they will get more blooms, and some of them look about perfect for harvesting. They will get more blooms if I go ahead and cut them, though. Okay, let's go down here to this bed. Another ground cherry and some more marigolds buried. This ground cherry is bigger. These are all the Mary's Niagara. I just wanted to put them out here to see if the pests bothered them, and so far, the pests are leaving them alone. The reason I like to test things on outside gardens, knowing that they could be eaten, is so that way I know what will and won't grow in the outside, what the pests won't eat. Because if it's something that I can grow outside of a fence, that saves me precious garden space inside of my fenced-in areas for things that I know that the deer and the squirrels and the groundhogs and the chipmunks are going to eat. Okay, this bed is a mixture of things. I've got, of course, marigolds and a ground cherry there. I've got some calendulas here. Now these calendulas and nasturtiums I'm about to show you have been chewed down and are growing back. I have a glad here, one that didn't get dug up. There's some nasturtiums there. Let's see what else we've got going on. Just a lot of stuff waiting to bloom. Another ground cherry and marigold. Another nasturtium. Over here we've got this beautiful coreopsis. It's a burgundy and a pale yellow to white. I think it's showing up more red on screen, but it is a dark burgundy. This bed is full of nasturtiums too, just most of them aren't in bloom at the moment, as well as this. Some more of that coreopsis over there. Some more of the coreopsis here. There's just all kinds of weeds. I've weeded this a couple of times. Ooh, this dill's pretty. Can you see that? That dill's growing. I didn't know if it survived. It just needs weeded, and I haven't had the time or the the want to get out here and take care of it because it's just too hot. This right here is a mixture of marigolds, zinnias, and salvias. And the last time I was up here, some of the zinnias were being chomped back. For some reason, it's only the pink variety that are in bloom. Interesting. I planted a mix, and it looks like so far that mix has only got pink. The sage I grew from seed, some more sage and zinnias. All right. Now I should probably try to tackle some of this feverfew. Because there's so much here and my basket's pretty full and the pollinators are loving this. I see a few bees. I'm going to leave the rest of this for now. I might come back out and harvest it in a few days. I might just leave it. But the bees and the pollinators are loving it, so I'm going to leave some for them. All right, can you see all these nasturtiums and how they've taken over this bank? It's full of flowers. It really is a pretty sight to behold. By the end of the season, I feel like most of these gaps are going to be filled in. But it is so pretty driving up every day and seeing all the different nasturtiums in bloom. Sitting here in the shade taking another break before we go down and look at the final part of my garden. I'm sure there are areas that I've forgotten or things that maybe I didn't think to show you. I apologize for that. You know, when you're walking through it, it's like one of the, when you see it every day, you get used to seeing it, and the same things don't stand out to you that stands out to other people who might be watching a video. It gets really hot here. Maybe not as hot as the deep, deep south, but it does get hot. It stays fairly humid most of the summer, so there are some days when it gets to this time of year, you're just not able to get out into the garden. And when you do, you're spending your time doing the absolute necessities, which, you know, usually consists of tying up fruit, harvesting, and maybe weeding little patches here and there if you're lucky, because that is, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to be out when it's that hot out. I so wish that I had one of those gardens that was beautiful and perfectly tidy and there was no weeds, but most of the stuff that I do, I still do by myself. And I don't have machinery. I don't have a side-by-side. I don't have a tractor. If I carry soil up to that top bed, I'm carrying it in 5-gallon buckets. If I carry mulch up to the top or down to the bottom, I'm carrying it by hand in 5-gallon buckets. I recently realized I could use my little wagon to pull said 5-gallon buckets. So that makes it slightly easier, but I'm still doing all this by hand. I don't have a team to help me. This is all me, and it's mostly me because other people work and I'm the one that's here to do it. And honestly, it's what I want to do, so it's not like it's this big thing that's been put upon me. No, I love to grow things. This is all me. I'm the one that spearheads these projects and make them come about. It's just that it also lends itself to not being maybe as beautiful and as tidy and as aesthetic as I would want it to be if I had the manpower and the time and the money to invest in those things. I'm hoping one day, just through sheer will of force and staying at it, that it does get to where it is more aesthetic and more beautiful. To me, I find it wildly beautiful, but other people might just see a weedy mess, especially whenever there's so many nurseries and formal gardens that you can find on YouTube. It definitely makes mine look like a jumbled mess, but I do it for the love of growing. And that's really all there is to it. I just love to grow. I love to grow things. It makes me so infinitely happy. And also it does give back to the soil and to the earth a little bit. So that's an added bonus. But overall, it's literally just because it makes me happy to grow things. This right here is an out of control sun gold. It is probably 7 foot tall, and that's not an exaggeration. Let's get some nice, healthy fruit on it, bracts of fruit. Yeah, it's growing quite tall. I just gave all of this stuff down here some Espoma organic fertilizer, the pelleted kind that's, time release. So all of these things should be getting a boost, but I do have these sunflowers that are getting heads. I'm hoping at least a couple of these are the Steve sunflowers. But there's several down here, and I seeded a few different types. I have these peppers down here, and these purple jalapenos. There's a couple. Can you see that down there? Or can you see that back there? There's a couple of small fruit on these, so I will just have to keep an eye on those. These peppers definitely need weeded, but they are growing. They're not quite as bushy as some of the ones at the top, but they're much more bushy than others. And it looks like they're going to start really pushing out the fruit soon, because I'm seeing a lot of little, what will be buds. Let's go this way first. Some more sunflowers. I'll take you down here and show you this. I have this dahlia that came back from last year in bloom. And the crazy thing is none of my dahlias last year were precisely this color. I'm trying to get it in the sun so you can see it. So I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But that's a dahlia that I left in the ground. I have these sunflowers down here. They're not as tall as the ones at the top. I stuck this cucumber plant here just to grow over the side. It looks like it's going to be getting fruit soon. It's the same kind that I have in my top garden. I have this dahlia, which was left in the ground. This is one I grew from seed and saved the tubers from. Well, last year I just decided to leave it in the ground and not dig it up. And it came back and it's flowering. I have this sweet Annie down here that came back, which I'm so glad of because it smells so good. And I didn't think it had reseeded. The basil we planted down here is doing well and growing. Just like everything else, though, we need to get this bed weeded out. Now, this is full of, you guessed it, weeds and dahlias that I grew from seed. Well, I think there's a couple in this area that I did save tubers from. We have that little guy there. It's got a pretty pink flower. Yeah, but we'll just have to wait and see for the rest of these what comes up. And then over here, there are just more peppers. Look, these have a couple of peppers on them. Oop, I just knocked that off. But that one has a pepper. This is the Zalpei or Sharpei pepper. And then I have this squash over here. And I really need to weed around it. But all of this just got fertilizer and then it rained. So I'm sure all these weeds are going to be going crazy as well. I need to weed and mulch. I always try to plant my sweet peppers and my hot peppers on different levels. So that way if I do save seeds, even if they cross-pollinate, the hot shouldn't cross-pollinate with the sweet and the sweet shouldn't cross-pollinate with the hot. If they do cross-pollinate, it'll at least be with another hot pepper or another sweet pepper because that's the only thing planted around it. Okay, let's go down these tomato tunnels. This row, all besides this gigantic sun gold, this row was planted last. This top row was the last row planted. And they're starting to finally put on some size. They're starting to get blooms. They're starting to bush out. Wow, that one goes all the way back there. So these need to be dealt with, obviously. And some of these tomatoes do look a little bad. But when it's hot out, the tomatoes do seem to get dramatic and wilty. We just going to have to wait and see if it's actually diseased or if it's just wilty due to the weather. But it has fruit. That is the early doll slice. It's a hybrid. You would think that it wouldn't be as prone to disease. All right. More tomatoes. More tomatoes. Some of these plants are taller than me. These were part of the ones that were put in last. You can tell the really tall ones stop right there. This row and the back part of that top row up there, these were all put in at the same time. So we finished out this row and started with the top. So they're starting to finally grow and put on size. All right. Now this last row, you can see these plants are starting to become loaded with fruit. There's fruit on so many of these. I do need to come up and trellis them though, or come down and trellis them. As you can see, my strawberry row that I started weeding, I never came back out here and finished it. I do plan on coming back out here and finishing at some point. We've just got to let this hot season pass first. So, all those little coleus that I planted in this bed are doing okay. They're growing technically. I did fertilize this little bed. I do need to weed, but considering that this bed has never been amended with compost or anything, they're doing all right. They were tiny when I planted them. They have definitely put on growth, but they're not growing the way I would like them to be honest. Okay, y'all, that's all I've got for you in the garden today. I just wanted to get this garden tour done so I would have a good example of where I'm at this time of year. It's always good to get your progress on camera if you can. It just makes you feel really accomplished by the end of the season because you can look back and see how far you've come. All right, thanks for hanging out with me on this messy, weedy, and wild garden tour. I appreciate it so much that you're here with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.